Ladies and gentlemen, Vodafone, since its entry in 2007, and its long-term objective and commitment to India, has been making meaningful inroads into contribution to society and also trying to enable social and economic development of local communities in India. And we have gathered here to talk about one such initiative that reinforces our commitment to sustainability. Mobile technology today has a much greater role to play in transforming societies. To articulate on how we at Vodafone do this and take you through this journey, I would now invite Sunil Sood, Chief Operating Officer for Vodafone India, to address us.
Respected Dr. Pachauri, on behalf of Vodafone India, I would like to thank you once more for gracing us with your presence. India is a big country, and Vodafone is committed to this country. India has grown to become one of the most important markets for us within our global sphere. Since Vodafone has entered India, we have invested 56,000 crores in India, and this does not count equity investments, making us the largest private sector investor in this country. We believe in social transformation, especially of the communities we live in, diversity and inclusion of our employees, and high customer satisfaction. Going forward, we believe M-Pesa will be the ideal solution to deliver financial services as well as benefits to the most deserving sections of society. Our commitment is to create awareness and impart knowledge on key issues such as health, safety and well-being, what we call HSW. We have made adherence to HSW norms a condition of employment, and violation of what we call the absolute service rules can lead to punitive action, including dismissal. The need for quality education is often unfulfilled in India. Vodafone Foundation, in collaboration with Pratham Education Foundation, initiated what is called Learning Out of the Box program, with Vodafone providing the learning solutions to reach out to over 50,000 students across 1,000 schools in India. On environment, Resolve is a campaign we started to manage non-hazardous solid waste, increase awareness about waste management. This endeavor defines an end-to-end management process of wet waste, paper, plastic. So in summary, our mantra being, what is good for society is good for business. Thanks a lot.
Sunil, if you could kindly remain on stage, requesting Rohit Adya also to join us on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the chair of Nobel Peace Prize-winning Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the Director General of TERI, a major independent research organization providing knowledge on energy, environment, forestry, biotechnology, and the conservation of natural resources. Ladies and gentlemen, to do the revelation of the formal launch of the report, I now invite Padma Vibhushan, Dr. Pachauri, to come on stage and do the honors.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be present on this occasion. The path of development and growth that we have pursued worldwide has led us to problems that are now becoming far more complex, far more serious. And essentially, if we were to adhere to the very basic definition of sustainable development, which requires that we develop in a manner that allows the present generation to meet its own needs without compromising on the ability of future generations to meet their needs, then clearly we have to be diligent in making sure that whatever we do as part of human society and human development takes into account what we might be leaving behind for generations yet to come. In my view, sustainable development is as much about ensuring inclusive growth ensuring, as Vodafone is doing, moving to rural areas, creating infrastructure, creating opportunities for the poor rural population of this country to get access to technologies. And therefore, I think in everything that we do, we must keep the issue of equity clearly in focus. And may I say, I've always been a great admirer of Vodafone. It's an organization which has not only been successful in a strictly business sense, but as we've heard and as we know, has also been very successful in taking its concerns to society and addressing the concerns of society towards using technology for sustainable development. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, and we certainly look forward to a close and productive partnership that I hope will have mutual benefits. Thank you very much.
Sustainability has become a very important pillar for business globally. Add to that the fact that here in India, the new companies bill makes it compulsory for companies of a prescribed size to spend 2% of their net profits on corporate social responsibility. That's a new development. However, there is a lot that needs to be done to really embed sustainability in Indian business. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Sustainability for responsible corporates. The composition of the panel ensures that we have a 360-degree view going through to you. To my left, Dr. R.K. Pachauri, Director General, the Energy and Resources Institute. Parul Soni, Executive Director and Practice Leader, Development Advisory Services, Ernst & Young. On my right, Sunil Sood, Chief Operating Officer, Vodafone India, and Neera Nandi, Partner and Co-Founder of Dasra, a social impact program. I'm going to ask you a very basic question, but I think the answers may be quite complex. What does sustainability mean to you? Sustainable business in particular, Dr. Pachauri.
In any business activity, there's a whole range of externalities that are imposed on the environment, on society. And I think you have to take a very comprehensive view of what business and business operations actually mean. Now, to the extent that a business succeeds in a narrow financial sense, you must also take into account what it does in terms of a larger social context. And if you take into account the externalities that business imposes, both positive and negative, on society, then clearly you're meeting the objectives of sustainability in its fullest sense.
You've presented the essence of sustainable business. Let me add more nuances, more color, and more views. Neera Nandi, you know ground realities here in India well. So when I say sustainable business to you, what comes to your mind?
Business is one of the stakeholders in sort of the overall piece around sustainability, and I think Dr. Pachauri sort of spoke to the issue of addressing issues around poverty. So I think broadening it, looking at population, because that places constraints on resources. And within that, all the different stakeholders that have to align, I think companies play a very strategic role. I think they have a significant amount of influence. But I don't think you can look at it in isolation of the role that government plays, the role that media plays, the role that nonprofits play within the community as well. So I think that they actually do need to align and engage other stakeholders.
Point taken. We're sticking with the definition aspect or your understanding and your experience of what sustainable business means. And let me see if Mr. Sood's point of view is an interesting juxtaposition to yours, Ms. Nandi. What does sustainable business mean at Vodafone India?
In Vodafone India, we believe that what's good for society, as Dr. Pachauri says, is good for business. So, we are earning from the society, we are earning from the environment at large, and how do we could be using some of the resources, how do we neutralize these resources, and how do we make it a win-win situation? Let me explain. So we ran a program for the blind where we had a call center, and we found that these girls were selling products for us, and they were actually telecalling salespeople. And we found that actually because of they could understand the subtlety of the voice on the other end, they were better salespeople than the normal call centers we used to employ. And our productivity increased by more than 50%.
What's the message that you give, the most important piece of advice, if you want to call it that, to companies who come to you and say, we want to build a sustainable business? What's the most important advice you give to them?
What happens is that the company exists in the entire society, so it's part of the society. And that's how the thinking is that, when it's part of the society, the 3 Ps are very, very important. People, people, and people. People, your employees, people, your investors, people, your customers. So I feel that the entire sustainability is around these 3 Ps. And if these 3s are not successful, the whole issue is your company is not successful, you're not successful economically. And when you're not economically successful, the sustainability of the company is really at that, it's at disadvantage.
I think all 4 of you have outlined the ideal. Now it's time for a reality check. And Dr. Pachauri, your organization, you personally are always interacting with companies, galvanizing them towards sustainable business. Be as honest as you possibly can. Assess whether attitudes here in India among business is changing.
Well, they certainly are changing. Attitudes are changing.
Fast enough?
Not fast enough, not extensively enough. It's one thing to talk about sustainability, but it's quite another to practice it in reality. Let me also emphasize that you would find customers and also shareholders becoming far more conscious of these issues.
And they could drive the change.
And demanding much more, and therefore they could drive the change. And I think the kind of reputational benefits that a company would get in genuinely practicing sustainability principles would be incalculable.
Change is taking place, but the pace needs to be accelerated. Do you reckon, Ms. Nandi, that based on your interactions with large companies, smaller organizations, social enterprises, that the concept is gaining traction and, it's happening at a faster rate now, sustainable business?
So I think it's happening at a faster rate, but I think we shouldn't deny that underlying some of the sustainability play is looking in the long term. So I think being able to, as a business, say, these are the short-term wins, this is where we're going to get buy-in and alignment, and then where are we going to really play for the long term that actually, impacts the business in a positive way. I think you do need to put a time horizon to some of this sustainability piece. And I think it's both that internal, external piece, as sort of Parul was saying. And I think that beginning inside, almost like clean yourself up at home, charity begins at home, ensuring that everything's okay within your business first, then increases your legitimacy for you to work in the community. So you're not doing token community work. So, little things that I think can really help that I think we're facing as a nation is how do we get more women to stay in the workforce? So little things like that. How do we get employees to engage with the community first? A lot of things you can do internally, but again, we can't deny that all of this costs money. And so there's a real need to understand, is the cost worth what we eventually see in profits in the long term? Requires some of us to put our heads together and inform businesses about the trade-off. So I do actually think at the end of the day, there's a trade-off.
Mr. Sood, reflect on that. There is a trade-off, and yet you believe that for a business to be truly successful, it has to be sustainable. You can't deny the trade-off, particularly in the short to medium term. How then does business managers' mind work choices made?
Well, it's like Parul said, it's good for your own DNA, it's good for your own people, it's good for your own organization. In fact, we work with Dasra for a program which annually we send 25 people to work with NGOs. And these could be from vice presidents downwards. And when they come back, they're changed people. We find the capability of empathy with the customer. We're a service organization. Empathy is very, very critical for us. The empathy with the customers shoots up very dramatically. We find they are far better people managers. They are far better understanders of the community at large, and in that sense, our customers. And we get our money back through that, from that change it makes on those people.
Okay, Clause 135 of the new Companies Bill, which makes corporate social responsibility spend compulsory for companies of a certain size. We're talking about 2% of net profits here. Do you think that's going to be a game changer for sustainable business?
If you look at India and you globally look at global companies, there are three ways the companies may have been divided. One is if you look at the companies in the Nordic countries, your Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and all those, Scandinavian and Nordic. There, the whole issue is the companies, when they publish their sustainability report, when they work on sustainability, their shareholder value goes up. The second category of companies is basically North America and your American companies, where they are still struggling on the whole issue of supply chain, greener supply chain, thinking about how they should work towards different stakeholders to see that they are included in the whole thinking of responsible business.
Sure.
India is very striking if you look at, I have been doing a lot of work from last many years on the whole thinking about investing in companies to say that, creating awareness to that level to say how companies should respond. But I can say that the pace which Dr. Pachauri said is very, very slow. People are still in that awareness level to say that they're still understanding. So we are not reaching anywhere. So that's the whole thing.
Okay, but I really wanted to understand whether the new companies bill and clause 135 is essentially at least a moral prod. I'm sorry for coming up with that phrase, Dr. Pachauri, but it's a moral prod for companies. Would you agree? Is it a step in the right direction? And reflect on whether the regulatory environment on environmental issues, beyond environmental issues, is firm enough here in India to spur corporate conscience.
Well, I think the term that you used is very apt. It is a moral prod. There's no question about it. And this is where I would submit that if you really want to bring about a change, you develop linkages with the outside world, whether it's NGOs or think tanks or research organizations, so that you get an infusion of new ideas and you're able to define opportunities in view of the newness of this particular challenge that you have. You have to extend your arms, you have to extend your intellectual resources to people outside, by which you're able to see where you can really make a difference to society and therefore to yourselves as well.
Ms. Nandi, after this new clause in the new bill, have you found a change in the conversations taking place? Has the net been cast wider to include more companies who weren't having conversations with organizations like Dasra, with social enterprises that are doing work on the ground? Has anything changed with this particular insertion?
I don't know if I think it's had an impact in starting conversations. Absolutely, there's no doubt. I must get, 5 or 6 emails every week about how some association is holding something around, understand the CSR bill for your business. Now, I don't know how many people show up to these things, but it's a conversation starter, absolutely. And India is a different country. I don't think we can compare it to the Nordic countries or the US. The disparity between the rich and the poor is so significant that I think it's more than a moral prod. I actually think it's potentially has a step change. 20,000 crores are supposed to come into the sector. Who knows how much of it will actually come and be effective. But the fact that that magnitude can actually be transformational, I think we all have a responsibility to make it be effective.
Okay, let's talk about some practical difficulties that are faced by organizations on the ground. You're, Mr. Sood, talking about sustainability within a company. It's one thing to articulate the vision. It's another thing to embed it at every single level of your organization. What's your experience been?
It's a cultural change that happens within an organization. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. We've been running this program for a couple of years. We have other various give back forums for our own individuals within our company, and various ways like raise your hand, partnership with NGOs, etc. Okay, so that's how we help make it top of mind. Same way, you got to change the culture and the DNA of organization and make this part of the society. Because with your own elements of people, the whole elements of people you interact with, if you manage to change them, they will change society. So you got to start. Boond boond se samudra banta hai.
Okay. Parul, when we're talking about the new companies bill and CSR spend, there's going to be a period of flux. There are going to be new sort of roles for every stakeholder to play, particularly the CFO, I imagine. How do you see all of that evolving?
You know, it's very, if you look at the whole investment, as I've always said, spending is investment because stakeholders part of the entire thing. The CFOs or the CXO, I'll work on the whole CXO level, is they have to see that, how they should have a categorization or the committee at the board level, because this has become a board level opportunity now. So at the board level, the CXO and the entire CEO, COO and the CFO are the officers deputed by the board. So the thinking is how they have to really react to the whole situation. But as per our experience, they are really reacting very positively.
Okay, I'm tempted because offline we were having a conversation about sustainability and CSR and whether or not the two are sort of part of the same umbrella concept. Still difference of opinion between Ms. Nandi and Mr. Soni?
Yes.
Why?
The thinking is sustainability is a very broad terminology. CSR is a small part of the sustainability because sustainability is inward looking. And CSR is outward looking to say that, how you will be taking care of your, the society at large, your community at large, how the entire stakeholder management and all that perspective is CSR. Sustainability is more of your employee health safety, energy efficiency, your indicators, how your company has to be more sustainable from the whole perspective of bringing change and more profitable. So responsible business is part of sustainability, and that will drive the whole CSR terminology.
I saw Dr. Pachauri nodding. Do you agree? I mean, with the split between those two concepts, corporate social responsibility and sustainability, or am I splitting hairs here?
Well, frankly, I don't see a dichotomy because, you would be effective in using these CSR resources in the most efficient manner if you also had a philosophy within the organization that focuses on sustainability. Because I think the principles underlying the two are very similar, if not identical. And I believe that a company really cannot do very much for society unless it internalizes social concerns in its own operations. But here, let me emphasize the fact that what's really going to make a difference is the manner in which the leadership of a company is going to devote itself and its resources to dealing with this new opportunity. I think this is a remarkable opportunity by which you can not only align the operations of the company to suit the interests of society, but you can also bring about internal change within the company itself.
Simply and effectively put, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this panel discussion. I hope you found it as informative and thought-provoking as I have. To the panelists, deep thank you. Great to have you on the show today. Thank you.